Hey everyone, it's Les from Comfortable Shoes Studio, and here's another episode of art making. In this episode, I am sort of giving you a first look and a bit of a review of an Ackerman piston filling fountain pen with a zebra comic G nib. Now, that title is a huge mouthful of words, but basically, artists who enjoy fountain pens have been modifying inexpensive fountain pens with number 6 nibs to use a Comic G nib for quite a while. These Comic G nibs have a huge amount of flex, a huge amount of variability, plus they get those super spidery, super thin lines that are indicative of pen and ink work with like crow quills and things like that. I love a dip pen, but I don't like taking dip pens out and about to draw. Now, I used to. I have talked about this before, but I used to take dip nibbed pen out and draw with it pretty frequently out on in situation like in plein air. And I did enjoy that, but I did find it pretty messy. And that's actually how I got back into fountain pens, was through making art on location. I spilled ink all over myself, and I was like, there's got to be a better way. And that's when I bought my first vintage-ish fountain pen and filled it with India ink, which is not something you can do, but it is something you can do with this fountain pen, the Ackerman Zebra G-Nib. Now, Ackerman sells a whole bunch of different pens with different kinds of nibs. And from what I understand, from what I was reading on their website, the feed and the pen itself is the same. The only thing that changes is the actual nib, with the exception of their crow quill nibs, which have a special nib and feed to fit in there. Anyway, I love me a dip pen, I love me a fountain pen, and the combination of the two should be awesome. I did do some attempts at making my own, and they were abysmal failures. So out of the box, the Ackerman pen comes in a small cardboard box. It is, in this case, this fountain pen is a piston filling fountain pen. It's a relatively inexpensive hexagonal capped fountain pen. Reminds me of the Moonman T1, which I also own. Same sort of size overall. It does have that number 6 nib. It's been drilled out and modified a little bit on the front end to hold the Ackerman nib and this G-nib. So initially out of the box, it was not good. The way the nib and the feed were together was it blobbed ink everywhere. It made a huge mess. It railroaded. It was just a mess. I hated it. I was really disappointed because it was a little over $20 for what I consider like a $2 pen from China. What you're actually paying for in terms of this is, yes, you're paying for the $2 to $5 pen from China, but the actual Ackerman feed is what you're paying for. And it was really disappointing to spend about $20 and get something that just railroaded, left blobs of ink everywhere. To get the nib and feed out, I disappointingly had to empty the ink out of the pen and then reseat the nib and feed. You have to take the back end of the pen off and then wedge. I used a chopstick. Take out chopstick and pushed the nib and feed out. Then I was able to actually really easily reseat the nib and feed where it should be. So in the case of this pen, the G on the nib should be completely covered up, and it should actually look like it is too deep in the pen to flex properly, but it really does still flex all you're going to need it to. And then the feed keeps up. It doesn't blob. It is a very wet writing pen, to the point where I check several times as I'm doing this to see if I've got any ink show through. So it really does write a lot like a dip pen. The way it responds is just dip pen like. The good thing about this pen is I can go ahead and fill it up with India ink. That is not something I recommend with any other fountain pen. Yes, I do it because I really like what fountain pen ink looks like. But that will eventually ruin a pen. In the case of this pen, the feed is designed to be able to handle India ink. So if you do end up getting any clogging or any problems with your India ink, you can disassemble everything and get in there and actually scrub this feed out. I should have gotten some photos of it as I was resetting it so that you could see what this feed looks like. It's really open. And that the fact that it's so open and it has like large channels in it is what makes it keep up with the flexiness of this particular nib. A regular feed, unless it's a wet feed, is not going to handle a flex nib this well. I have attempted several modifications with other pens, and the feeds have a lot of trouble keeping up with the flex nibs. It's a struggle to get the nib to seat properly onto the feed. You got to heat set the feed. It's a giant pain in the butt. You can get this for about $20. It takes a little tweaking to get the nib to sit right. But once you get it set in there, for me, I set the feed in as far as it would go, and also the nib almost as far as it would go. There's a stop in there, so you can't slide the nib in any further, and that worked perfectly for me. You might find something different for if you get one of these pens. The other thing that you can do is they sell just the feed. So the feed, if you buy just the feed, it's $8. And then you can supply your own G-nibs. You can get titanium coated G-nibs on Amazon. It's about $17 for a 10-pack. They'll last a lot longer. You can also get chrome plated, and they're about $12 on Amazon, and you can get all of these things on Jet Pens or other locations as well. I'll have affiliate links to these things in the show notes. But yeah, I'm really impressed with how this pen is performing now. The ink flow is fantastic. I can also tell because of how wet this writes, I am going to be definitely blowing through ink like at very large volumes, which is, because I can use India ink in this, okay. Right now I'm using the Roaring Clear sketch ink, the Lottie, I'm going to go with Lottie, the Lottie color, which is their black sketch ink. And it just really does perform really, really well. But knowing that I can use true India ink in this pen and not have it clog up is really fantastic. It's just, if you like fountain pens and you like a dip nib, certainly purchasing a dip nib is really inexpensive. You can get a handle and a whole range of nibs at places like Michael's or most art supply stores for not a lot of money. I think around $10. You can get a really inexpensive set, and for a little bit more money, you can get a much better handle. Jet Pens sells all of this stuff. So does, Amazon, but want to, promote Jet Pens when I can. They don't sponsor me. I just am a super happy customer. Anyway, if you enjoyed this review-esque or review adjacent show, hit that subscribe button, hit the thumbs up. If you really enjoyed this, share this with someone who you think might find it beneficial. And if you really, really enjoyed it, head down to my links and hit me up on Ko-fi and buy me a cup of coffee so I can keep making videos like this. Thanks and bye.